Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our February 16th, 2022 quit. School board meeting. We'll wait just a second here for our administrators to have a seat. They were in an interview. Alrighty. Welcome, everybody. This is February 16th, 2022 school board meeting. Can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Cox?
Here.
Mr. Henry?
Present.
Mr. Llewellyn?
Here.
Mrs. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Mundy?
Here.
Okay. Can I get everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, to my far left, we have Nathan Mundy, school board member, Don Henry, school board member, Dr. Andrea Townsend, our superintendent. My name is Joe Cox, school board president. To my right, your left, is Leslie Miller, school board, John Llewellyn, school board, and Ryan Sloan, our treasurer. In our audience, we have Melissa Tice, our assistant superintendent, Devin Berry, our director of human resources, Jack Haig, our business manager, and we'll move on. It is recommended that the agenda for February 16th, 2022 meeting be adopted as presented.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Sloan?
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Mundy? Yes.
It is recommended the minutes of the regular meeting held on February 2nd, 2022 be approved as submitted. I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Sloan?
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Mundy? Yes. Mr. Cox?
Yes. Item number 8, our student representative report. Mr. Llewellyn?
Shabri, do you want to come share with us for a couple minutes about what we just chatted about, or you want me to do it? I should have probably not given you that out, should I?
No, you should not have.
Lesson learned. Well, Shabri is with us, and of course, McKenna and Sarah aren't with us tonight, but we did have a brief discussion with her. A couple of things we talked about is her and her counterparts are going to help us draft a kind of a handbook for the student reps that come after them. So we went through a little bit of that, and then also with the roundtable coming up with some of the other districts, we talked about some of the topics that the kids are going to be organizing for an April 9th meeting with legislators. There'll be members from, we're inviting a lot of people, and just to give you an idea, we're inviting people in the governor's office, we're inviting people with OSBA, we're inviting every state legislator and state senator within the district area of our school district. So there's 10 or 12 of those, amongst some other folks. So we're hoping for a bigger turnout this time, and we're hoping we also have probably 11 or 12 students among these 4 districts. So that's even a little more than last year. So really hoping for something really dynamic in April. April 9th will be the date for this. And then lastly, we're also still working toward a presentation. Some of us in this roundtable are going to do a presentation just about what a student rep in a district could mean for all those districts that don't have one, and that'll be a November presentation in Columbus. And so, Shabri, appreciate you being here and all your work this year so far. We're a couple months to go, and I know you're a senior, so I know that pretty soon you're going to get really busy, and so we want to take as much of your time as we can get right now before it gets really hectic for you before May. So that's it.
Our communication update, Ms. Corbett is out, so we will go straight to our presentation.
Great, thank you. And this is with cabinet tonight, so. All right, Devin, I have the whole presentation up here. So good evening. As promised, we are very excited as we're moving into next school year with our two buildings that are opening, our PK1 and 5-6. So with that comes a lot of transitions in the district, including change in grades, staffing. We did practice, I swear. And just some really, a lot of exciting things are going on, and we've really spent a lot of time working on this. So we wanted to share with the community and the board and give you a little bit of an update. This is a little hard to see, but we are going to grade bands next year. So our school configurations and leadership team will change slightly. So our West Carrollton Early Childhood Center, currently the ECC, which will be pre-K 1, will have Mrs. Sheeman remaining principal, and Robin Halter will be taking over as our preschool coordinator. We're very excited about that. There's a lot that goes into our preschool program, so we're very happy she's taking that over. Schnell Elementary will house all of our second and third graders. Mrs. Yearman will be the principal, and Jen Robinson, who's currently a curriculum coach, will be a teacher on special assignment, so we're looking forward to that. Russell Elementary School will house all of our fourth graders, and Mr. Toby will be at the helm. West Carroll Intermediate School, the 5-6, will be Mr. Glover as the principal, and Mr. Price is the assistant principal. West Carrollton Middle School will become a 7-8 building with Mr. Krissick as the principal and Amy Kinzer as the assistant principal. And the high school will remain a 9-12 with Candace Hafner as the principal, Mr. Iser and Mr. Zink as assistant principals. So we're very excited. There's been a lot of planning, a lot of master scheduling going on, and some changes to our programming, which I will let others share. Do you want me to leave this up for you? Okay. Mr. Haig.
Okay, and since our transportation supervisor is in Florida right now, so we will take some of those responsibilities. Her and I work together on this program here. And as a whole leadership team, like Dr. Townsend was saying, we evaluated what's the best way to do our buildings. Do we go all grade levels? Do we split it up? And in the end, it came to consensus that grade level buildings was the way to go. To make it work, that meant that every building is being transported district-wide. So that means there's a 1-mile area around each building that's going to be parent responsibility, and then we transport those other students from the district. To make that work, we had to look at a few different things. One is we knew that we were going to have to adjust the bell time some because we run really tight bell schedules, which forces buses, if there's anything at all that happens on a bus, that bus is typically late going to the next school, which means it's going to be late for their last school also. So we looked at the bell times to see what sort of adjustments we need to make and still be able to make this work. We also looked at the routing and how many students using this year's configuration, if we were running this scenario, how many students would ride the bus, how many buses will it take to make this work. We found out we could do this without adding any additional buses. And then, again, we were keeping that 1-mile area around the schools. The bell schedules are going to change slightly, but they're backing up a little bit. We're scooting the middle school schedule back by about 10 minutes from their current time. So we're going to back them up a little bit. The West Carrollton Intermediate School will be the one, the 5th and 6th graders. They will pop in about the same tier. We'll consider that tier 1 for the busing. And they'll pop in there about 7:30 to 2 o'clock, which is the same length of days in elementary school, but they'll be kind of on a middle school schedule on that. The high school, we're going to back their schedule up by 15 minutes. So they'll come in at 8:10 instead of 7:55. So we're backing them up 15 minutes because, again, we're building that gap between routes a little bit so we can pick up district-wide and make sure our buses are on time to all these schools. Schnell is being backed up again. Theirs is, they're only about a 5-minute adjustment on their time. Harry Russell, we're backing up 15 minutes so we can accommodate their new bell schedule. And the ECC, we'll see it backing up by about 15 minutes also. By backing up a little bit, we're worried about field trips because how are we going to get buses out for the field trips? But if you look at the way that schedule is, the early childhood center will be the last school, but basically it'll only need about 13 or 14 buses out of our 26 to 27 buses we'll have on the road. So that will free up those buses at that time to still do high school field trips and make those early field trips out. We're not having every bus running at 4 o'clock until 4:45 on that. But by adding first graders to the buses for the ECC, we're still maintaining aides on all those buses. The biggest difference will be is right now at PK1, we do a lot of home drop-off. Say we'll drop off in front of your house. If we have people within 2, 3, or 4 houses of each other, we're going to be combining them into group stops because that's the only way to make it work on that without stopping. Because you put 700 kids in a school and you're transporting 60% of those kids and you have to stop at everybody's house, some of those kids would have been on the bus for about an hour and 15 minutes, and that's too long to ride a bus. So we kind of back that up a little bit. So that's how we set up transportation. And then how do we get all the right people in the right places? And Dr. Myers and I have been working on this, and we are working with Plains Moving and Storage to come up with our plan for what we're calling the big move. It is a lot of moving pieces, and it's a lot of moving going on. You think, well, you're just moving everybody from Holiday into a new school. Yeah.
Is the transportation for CTC impacted?
No.
Thank you.
Nope, we'll still be able to get them to school on time because we're normally one of the earlier buses pulling in there. So those kids will still have the opportunity to ride in on a middle school bus. They will jump from the middle school bus onto their CTC bus, and we'll take them from there on out. So it will not affect. The only out of district that will be affected is we'll be a little bit early on Bishop Leibold because we're going to adjust the way we get those kids to Bishop Leibold because we can't really push them back on that high school route like they are now. So but that adjustment will be worked out, and we'll send letters home to parents to let them know what's going on with that. So, okay, the move. Everybody's thinking, okay, ECC simple. You take everybody in the ECC and you move them over to the new building right next door. Everybody grab a box and we can get this done quick. Not quite that simple. CF Holiday, you think, oh, got a new school right next door. Okay, but that school next door is 5th and 6th grade classes, and CF Holiday is now 1st through 5th. So what we're doing is we had to come up with a plan so we can get everybody moved from the current building into their correct building as quick as possible. Get them out. The reason being is because where the ECC sits and where CF Holiday sits, we need to get those buildings down, get that ground compacted, build us a parking lot on the one side and a playground on the other side before August. So those two buildings are our first priorities. Again, we figured we're moving about 140 staff members, I think. And you figure, well, that's not that bad, but we're allowing every staff member about 10 crates. So there's 1,400 crates that are going to be shipped around. Plains will be providing us with labels. Our goal, or what our assignment is we have to let them know where those crates are coming from, where they're going to, so that we make sure they get them in the right spot on that. Our timeline for the move, it will be pretty much sticking to this plan right here because that's what we've kind of committed to. We're looking to move our district office before school is out. We'll be moving from our current site over into the new PK1 building. That weekend, I think May 19th is a Thursday. That's a pay date. After payroll completes, we're going to try to get everybody moved over Thursday, Friday, and Saturday into the new building. So come Monday morning, they're up and operating so we don't lose any communication. We keep everything going and have everybody up and running on that Monday morning. That gets the administration side in the right spot before school's out. That last week of schools, we approach it. We'll be delivering the crates to all the teachers so they can start packing their educational supplies. Things that we won't move, and we've been communicating openly and clearly with everybody, is we're not moving personal items. So if you've got a refrigerator in your classroom and you brought in your lamps from your home and stuff like that, or Your Christmas lights, those things are going home with you. You're taking them home, start working on that now. We're purging that stuff out. We'll be moving educational materials, your files, anything you need to teach the students will be going. And that's the stuff we'll be working on moving. They'll have that last week of school and then into their teacher work day plus 1 day to try to get everything packed. Starting after the holiday, we will move ECC and holiday first. ECC will be the first priority. Get those teachers out. We'll empty holiday next. Then after we do that, we'll begin moving the other schools. Probably middle school would be the second priority, and then try to get Schnell and Russell worked out and get them in the right spot. Unpacking part, May 3rd through the 8th. We're letting the teachers know, hey, you got a day. You're not setting up your classroom. Get yourself unpacked. Leave it in there. Empty those crates out because we want to get them back to planes moving and storage. They were reusable crates. So we'll give them their crates back, and then when we come back in August, set up your classroom, and you'll be ready to roll on that. Yes, sir.
So my responsibility here tonight is to talk about the technology that's going to be in the new buildings. We will have 75-inch ViewSonic interactive boards, which is similar to J-Touches that we see around. There's a few of them in the district already. It is an interactive board, and on the back is actually a black box or a Google Android computer. So it's a touch monitor in essence with a operating system built in. So it's a self-contained unit. There won't have to be an additional piece of hardware in the classroom for the teacher to tap into. Those will be in all of the teacher classrooms. Inside intervention areas and in offices, there will be a 55-inch ViewSonic interactive board, just a smaller version of the same thing, where a teacher can log in with a wireless keyboard and can just totally be interactive with the board. They're very resilient, very bright, and for the teachers that have been using Promethean boards over the past 15 years, I'm sure they are super excited to be able to move to the interactive board. Technology integration, what that really means is all of the software, all of the platforms that our teachers currently access in their classroom, they'll be able to access on this new technology. There won't be a loss of accessibility. Teachers have built years worth of lessons in a program called Promethean. All of that transfers to the new ViewSonic interactive board. The 2 gigabyte bandwidth, the question we only get 20 times a day, which is a valid question. Right now the district is operating off of hardware for Wi-Fi that was installed in 2003 and updated in 2006. So kudos to Robert, doing a great job of making something that is obviously older function. We are jumping to a fiber system, and we're starting at 2 gigabyte bandwidth, which is twice as much bandwidth as we have currently. We have the potential to go 10 times as much bandwidth as we have currently. But we're going to start with 2 gigabyte, and it's fiber, and it's 10 gigabytes between the building, which really means just anything that we do in-house is just going to move seamlessly, and teachers going out to the internet to grab that curriculum and to go to that website, those issues will be gone. I think everybody will be doing cartwheels, and it'll be a great relief to everybody. So that's why there's an exclamation point after that one. That is coming very soon, but it will not take place inside the district until the beginning of next school year. But to run the HVAC and other systems, we have to have that fiber installed now in order to get those systems online. And for the teachers, we purchased over 300 laptops. So that laptop does not need to be hooked into anything in the classroom. That is something that the teacher can use in their classroom, but is a tool that they can also take with them since the ViewSonic board has its own computer in it. Those will be passed out on August 18th on our first teacher workday back. At the very same time, we're introducing our teachers to our new student information system, and we can talk about that later, but that will be a good day to introduce all these new items and get the teachers acclimated to the new technology they'll be using. Thank you.
Good evening. Obviously, staffing. A lot of conversations to move, or essentially, possibly move all of our PK to 8 teachers. So a lot of communication with curriculum department, cabinet level, as well as working with WCEA. So the contributing factors for each staff and deciding where they were going to move. We're looking at past and current experiences. If you look at the licensing for many of our teachers, teachers may be 1 through 8, but spent the majority of their career in a middle school. So though they would be capable of teaching 2nd grade, if they've been teaching 7th grade for the past 15, 17 years, I don't think we would do either party a service by moving them to the ECC. So those are considerations. So past and current experiences, the number of classroom sections needed, and building configurations. So as actually Dr. Townsend showed us the new configurations, looking at their licenses, there's some difficult licenses. We look at 4-9. Well, as an example, our intermediate school is going to be 5-6. So if I were to move a K3 with a 4-5 endorsement, that teacher would only be able to teach 1 grade in that building, even if they've taught 5th grade forever. So a lot of conversations and a lot of considerations, and kind of a jigsaw puzzle to move people in and to see where they fit, and having conversations with them. But obviously, whenever you move that large amount of people, it's impossible to make everyone happy. So we're going to always try to do what we think is best for kids. I spoke about teacher licensure, and the last one would be teacher preferences. The preferences weren't as broad, but we did consider their opinions, and I did receive a lot of email, and I had conversations with each teacher that sent me an email. We wanted to make sure that every teacher was notified, working with the team over here, prior to the Christmas break, to give them 6 months to prepare and to adjust to whatever their new role would be for the 22-23 school year. So right now, we thank you for throwing that in there, Melissa. We added a February 18th QPT day, and on that day, which is Friday, everyone that was given their assignment for the upcoming school year prior to the winter break, they will all report to the buildings where they will work next year. So they'll be introduced to that principal. Many of them, it's their first time meeting that principal if they've been working in the middle school forever. And then we move them to the 5-6. So now they're going to meet Mr. Glover, tour the building. I think Jack has created some opportunities for them to see the 2 new buildings and to have some conversations, or start those conversations about the configurations within the building. So that will all take place Friday. It's going to be a pretty busy day, which I think Ms. Jones will tell you more about. And the last one is written and verbal communication. We made sure that no one was surprised. And that was a difficult thing. I kind of pride myself on working with people face-to-face, so instead of picking up the phone oftentimes, because I'm a teacher and a principal, I still like to interface with kids and teachers, so I'll just go and talk to them. But when you're moving 100+ staff members, it was impossible to go and meet with them all face-to-face. So I met with groups, but ultimately what we did was found a way to send each individual a letter explaining where they would be with their assignment on it at the same time, so that everyone would receive the information at the same time and wouldn't see and be able to compare, unless they decided to do that, where everybody else was. So, yes.
I was just wondering, did things go smoother with the staffing changes than you expected? It seems like that's a lot of work to do. So I was just wondering if things went kind of smooth, or if the waters were a little rougher than you thought, or.
I think that's an excellent question. That was my task. I didn't put it off, but I wanted to give them enough time. It was a lot of stress for me. I closed the door, which I keep my door open all the time, for about 4 days, and didn't talk to anybody, and probably barked at people that I shouldn't have have spoken gruffly to. But I will say, honestly, it did go a lot smoother than I ever expected.
Good.
There were a few disgruntled teachers, but I would say, looking at it from a percentage-wise, we'd probably say 5 to 7%. The others, I think they were extremely mature, handled it really well, recognized what was going on in the district, and really just wanted to know where am I going to be, and I'll deal with it from there.
Okay. Good. That's good to hear. Thank
Do you expect or perhaps know at this point, do we have any gaps where we're gonna need a couple of teachers to make up for the shift in the building?
I think one of the things that we've seen research-wise is whenever buildings, any district that opens new buildings, there's some turnover. Teachers, of course, are creatures of habit and don't like change. So our normal over the past 2 to 3 years, I'd say about 4 years, we average about 12 to 15 teachers a year that leave. Right now, we have 4 people that have notified us that they are resigning. So some will come from that, others may leave. So no, we didn't save as many as what we thought we would, but we may be able to save some spots with attrition, I would say.
Okay.
Did that answer? Okay.
Mr. Berry, the board has only approved 2 retirees
Yes.
and 4 more that you just mentioned, so that's 6.
No, a total of 4.
A total of 4.
A total of 4. 2 haven't made it official. They've spoken with me and told me their intentions. They're waiting most of the time to work with STRS and wait on their appointment and decide when they want to do it. But 4 have notified me. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, so after Devin stopped barking at us and then we got all of our teachers put in the places that he did a great job in designing all of the new staffs. The next thing we needed to do is get them equipped to teach either in their new grade level or in their new position, and obviously in a new building. So on February 18th, on Friday, we created a survey. So we are going to collect some information from the teachers as to where we need to support them, both with PD and also with resources. Some teachers are staying in the same subject but moving grade levels, so the standards will be different. Some are moving both, so we want to make sure that we equip them to start in the fall with the right amount of PD and, of course, resources. So once we get the survey on Friday, we're going to design some individualized PD plans because we'll have needs in all different areas, like I said, all different grades and subjects. And we want to make sure that PD is delivered to them, obviously, before they start in the fall, so that once we get the survey results, we'll work on that. As Craig said and Jack said, we're going to move all of the curriculum resources to individual classrooms. In other words, they're going to have a special label on them, and they're going to move from classroom A directly to classroom B where they need to be for that teacher. We won't be having to sift through large piles and mountains of curriculum in the building. So they'll be going to the individual classrooms. And then I just wanted to highlight some of the new courses. Since we are opening some new buildings, we are going to add some new courses to the intermediate and to the middle school. So we're going to be able to offer a technology/STEM course for 5th grade. And then also in the same building for 6th grade, we're gonna start with Project Lead the Way. We're gonna do app creators, and we're going to also offer innovators and makers. These are each semester classes. And then for middle school, again, additional classes for Project Lead the Way. It'll be an extension of those. One will be automation and robotics, and the other class will be design and modeling. So we're very excited to be able to offer those, and we've applied for some grants. Project Lead the Way offers grants that offset its own costs. So it's really nice to be able to have that. So I'm in the process of the grant procedure there.
Small question. Does Project Lead the Way, is that the type of stuff that includes 3D printers? Is that?
Yes, it can. Yep.
Oh,
in,
wow,
in
that's-
some of the classes, those are, it's on the list of equipment to buy.
That's
yes.
some very interesting
Yeah,
stuff.
so it's going to be good experiences for our kids.
Oh, wow, very
And
cool.
some of the things that they do will obviously lead into high school where they are in, robotics. They can be on the team or part of the classes offered there.
Wow, great opportunities. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Anything else? All right, thank you.
Okay, and so really, I feel like Jack has been doing a fantastic job over the last several years, from the inception of the bond issue and the bond committee to get that issue passed, to really beginning to work with the architects. He was getting to have all of the fun. But this year, as you can see, we've all been able to kind of contribute to what the move actually means for instruction. And so in doing so, we've been able to say, hey, let's reinvent some of the things that we already do. I've given you just 3 examples here that we've decided that we're going to tweak in terms of programming for students. Title I funding currently, we have grades 1 through 5 that are served with Title I funds as intervention services to students that are what we call supplemental services, above and beyond what students would receive in the regular classroom. We do locally fund support at kindergarten for students. And what we're going to be doing is shifting our Title I funds down to grades K through 4, and then moving those. We're still going to have additional support for our 5th graders, but we're going to be moving those local funds up to that 5th grade level. So that allows us to really focus in terms of the amount of required documentation, reporting, tracking that we do for the Ohio Department of Education in terms of Title I funds. We'll still be able to focus that just on 3 buildings, but not lose any support services to our students. For English learners, we currently serve K through 12 students with our most intensive support in terms of the number of staff members assigned to grades 1 through 5. But because we are going to be able to serve all of our students pre-K 1 in one building, and because so many of the same standards at pre-K and K and 1 and those grades, they're the same as the beginning English learner standards, we're going to be able to push more support up to some of those students in upper grades. And really, that's great news for students who arrive in our country as 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds who speak little to no English, but are still faced with having to meet graduation requirements and get credits and learn English all at the same time. So we're excited to be able to push some of those services up.
Sorry, I was just thinking of, so for the grades 5 and 6 that are locally funded, would that take any funds for like other things that we do and funnel them to that program, or is that covered?
Trading them.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Right now,
okay.
we're paying for kindergarten out of local funds.
Oh, okay.
And now we're going to take the 5th grade funds that are federal funds, move that to kindergarten, and take the kindergarten local and put them in 5th.
Oh, okay. So nothing's really being added on. It's just kind of flipping around.
It's changing, yeah, it changes the requirements, and it's a way that we've been able to preserve the same level of service at every grade level, but you will hear, it used to be that you would hear that Holiday, Russell, and Schnell were our Title I buildings, and that will be the intermediate school, the 2-3 building, and the pre-K 1, the Early Childhood Center. But we're still going to be providing services to everybody, K through 5, as we are now.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, so I covered the English learners. And then student support systems in general. That is something, we've been able to say how and where do we need to target specific supports for students. And this is outside of academics. This is really our social emotional learning, counseling services for students, the mental health therapists, the alternatives to suspension. All of those are support services we have in place for students that are all designed to help them regulate their own behavior, monitor themselves, and improve their ability to interact positively with others. Right now, you can see that in that first column, it shows that we have Samaritan therapists pre-K through 12, SEL coaches K through 12, guidance counselors at 6 through 12, and alternative to suspension 6 through 12. Next year, because of the grade band configurations, we're going to shift that a little bit. We're going to increase the amount of mental health therapists we have in upper grades, and we're not going to offer that at pre-K 1 because there's not a lot of benefit necessarily for talk therapy in terms of counseling for a preschooler or a kindergartner, but we have an intense need for that at middle school and high school. So we want to shift that up. Alternatively, our SEL coaches who right now are providing services K through 12, as we started to monitor the number of referrals from high school staff members to those folks, there's not a lot happening at the high school. So what we want to do is we're going to put one SEL coach, just place her at the pre-K 1 building entirely. So instead of having to travel between 2 buildings or split services, she'll be there exclusively, delivering the kinds of services that parents need, because it's usually more of a parent need than an individual child counseling need at that age. So that's one shift that we've made. Guidance counselors. Currently, we have 3 guidance counselors at the middle school. We'll be shifting one of those down to the 5-6 building. So that'll offer some additional opportunities for 5th graders to really start looking long-term into career exploration and other kinds of activities that guidance counselors typically support. And then finally, alternative to suspension, we'll increase that as a 5th grade offering too, since 5-6 will be in the same building. So these are just some examples of what I think is the really exciting part, and that's the synthesis of everything that you heard from these guys back here when we start looking at technology and curriculum and staffing. Then we're able to do what I think is the most exciting, and that's how does that impact programming for our students. So what other questions can I answer for you, or any of these guys?
I have one. I appreciate all of you guys in your presentations. You covered everything, really. I can't think of something you didn't cover. It was really good. But I do have a question, I think that's probably tailored to you or to Dr. Townsend maybe the most. And it has to do with maybe behavioral kind of things with COVID and all the issues the kids have with wearing masks and mental health issues. Have you noticed, my question is, have you noticed any uptick at all in school suspensions, expulsions, that kind of thing, just based on the barriers the kids are having to deal with?
When we took a look, this was right before Christmas, we took a look at the number of suspensions that we had this year versus 2 years ago in 2019. I'm sorry, yes, is that right? I've lost track of all the years all the time.
Yeah.
It's the COVID fog. But we looked back 2 years so that we could see, when we were actually in session, and we actually had a decline in the number of suspensions, which was surprising and I think it was surprising to principals, to teachers, just based on what their feelings were. And so because I had heard so many people say, we think behavior is more pronounced, we think that we have more discipline issues, we ran the numbers. And we did not have an increase. We had actually had a decrease. And we are probably on par right now for the number of expulsion referrals that we've had, recommendations for referrals at this point in the year than we were a couple of years ago as well. So the kinds of discipline issues that I've seen last year were much more related probably to mental health, drug and alcohol use, I would say, was what we saw when we first returned. We have had more issues with maybe some anger-based behavior this year is probably the best way to describe it. But is it increased significantly? No.
That's good to hear.
You said that there was going to be one guidance counselor at the intermediate school. Do you think that will be sufficient, or? Because we're going to have 2 at the 7-8, and we're going to have 1
We have 2 at the 7-8, but there's a lot more programming that happens for 8th graders who are moving into the high school. The whole scheduling piece and counseling kids on what classes to take, how they're going to map out their following 4 years in high school, doing more career exploration. Dr. Myers talked about U-Science, which is a piece that we added this year. U-Science is designed to help kids start determining what careers they might be interested in, what the career pathway is. So as we focus more on those things, I think that is much more of a 7-8 activity
Okay.
than 5-6.
Mhm.
And in 5th grade and 6th grade, you don't have that 7-period bell schedule
Right.
necessarily with so many offerings that you do at a 7-8 or preparing to 9-12. So at this point, I think we think we're going to be okay based on
Okay.
those reasons.
Yeah, and that sounds good. And you said how many Samaritan therapists would be at the intermediate?
At the intermediate, you know, it's really based on the number of students that we get referrals on, because Samaritan has been able, sometimes they'll add a second therapist
Okay.
if we need it. If we fill one person's schedule, we can always add another. Our contract is structured in such a way that it says at a cost not to exceed a certain number
Sure.
of dollars. So if it says 350,000 and we're at 300,000, we can add a whole nother person.
Okay.
So our goal would be to have at least 1.5 at the 7-8 and probably 2 at the high school.
Okay.
But again, that's also dependent upon the availability of those counselors
Sure.
when we have open positions. So.
Okay, thank you.
I was just gonna have somewhat of a follow-up with that. Is there any need for any more staff in these new buildings, like more nurses or more janitors, or is all that pretty much covered?
Well, we have looked at that. We have the same number of nurses. We have 6 buildings, and we feel confident that we're going to be able to cover each of our buildings with that same number of nurses. We were able to staff the buildings with the same number of administrators. There may be some instances, I know that Mr. Berry's still looking at what the special schedules look like and how those traveling teachers will impact PE, art, music offerings, those kinds of things. So there could be an instance where we have to expand. Probably secretarial staff is an area where we're going to see an increase because if you put preschool, kindergarten, and 1st grade all in one building. Right now at the ECC, we have 1.5, not even 1.5, but maybe 1.2 or 1.3 secretaries there. That absolutely will not be enough. So there will be some areas where we just know we're going to have to increase.
That's a good heads up. Thank you.
I've just got a quick question. On our 7th and 8th grade that are moving into the middle school, are we shutting down one of the floors? That's a third less of students in that building? That's the first question, and then if you want to answer that first, we'll go to the second one.
I'll say we're not shutting down a complete floor. The 3rd floor houses our computer lab and also 2 of our art rooms. So, but what we're doing is I meet with Mr. Krisick over there, and we're looking at it. We're shutting down quite a bit of the 3rd floor, and then certain classrooms on other floors that we see that we don't have the need for. So they'll be locked off and not in use. So that's less cleaning we have to do in that building because we don't have to go in every classroom every day. So that's so we'll be eliminating 10 or 11 classrooms will be shut down. Most of those will be, the way it looks right now, on the 3rd floor, but we're still working out the details on where they're going to be and how we're going to set that up.
Okay, and then this one's kind of pertaining to a little bit of the future. Are we going to be using the middle school for swing space for the high schoolers? And are we looking to set it up, I mean, we're going to have to put the 9th through 12th someplace.
You're going way out there.
But the reason I'm asking the question is because you're already putting the 7th and 8th graders in the middle school.
Yeah.
So they're already going to be housed there when we go into the next change.
We will not need to move the high schoolers from the high school to build a new 7th through 12th building there. So we looked at that when we were looking at the initial layout and design way back when, before we even went for the bond issue, was one of the things we looked at. And to see how it would actually fit, we even had the architect do up a drawing for us, a rendering of how that will fit in the space. And we could build, because our high school is 1 floor, but it's built into wings, kind of like college campus. It takes up a huge footprint, but you could build a larger building behind it and have only a half or a third of the footprint, depending on how many stories that building is and how you lay that building out. And we have a lot of land over there around the high school to use and take advantage of.
Yeah,
So there's really no need to,
the initial
have
thing that I
swing
heard
space.
was the best place to build the high school was exactly where the high school is at.
that would
So-
be true, because probably back in 1958, when they looked at it, they said, hey, what's the best place to build a high school here? And that's where they put it. So we say, okay, that's the best place now, but if we build the high school here, how do we reconfigure this land to make it so it's worthwhile?
So
And what you end up seeing is in that front field, picture where the high school is now becomes grass and parking. There'll be practice fields on one end of it, we can put an outdoor basketball court. There's plenty of space there to reconfigure that space and just move how our practices and everything's set up.
So our thoughts are right now, we're gonna do the same thing we've done with the ECC and Holiday. Build
Yes,
build
because
next to
it'll
the building.
work,
Yeah.
and it should work really well over there.
Thank you.
Mr. Hague,
Thought you were getting away.
do you want to emphasize the classroom physical size for the 712 campus in comparison to today's two facilities that have larger rooms than what we require? Square footage.
I would, but I hate to go out there until we design that, because it would be just.
But that is in
I
our
would be
master
making
plan.
estimations on stuff, yes. But, as of right now, put it this way, the high school square footage wise, we'll shrink square footage for the high school from where we're at now, because, our high school was built for 1,600 kids. And currently we're housing 900 in there roughly. So, we got a lot of space in our high school right now, so.
I also have one more. This is not really, I guess it's not really it's probably more of a staffing question or a curriculum. The middle school, they used to have the finance teacher. Is that still a thing, or is that gone now? Does anyone know what I'm talking about? I remember taking a finance class in 8th grade. Is that still a
Career in finance.
It's
Yeah.
still there.
Would that move to the high school, or is that staying at the middle school?
There's also a requirement for us to teach finance that's in law.
I heard about that. That's why I was
So,
asking.
yes, it will still be at the middle school, but then it will carry over
Oh,
into the high school
okay.
as well.
Because I'm like, yeah, that just makes more sense for it being high school. I was just wondering. Thanks.
So, and just to kind of wrap up, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to everybody. All of this information will be summarized in a parent-friendly format and sent out to our families. And if there's any questions about busing, that bus schedule will come out August 1st, so don't call. You can get to it online right at the beginning of August. So, any last questions for us? It'll go out probably this week, no later than next, yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to item number 10. Dr. Townsend.
Thank you. We have tonight our policies. They'll be discussed by the board. No action will be taken tonight. This is our first read. They're very small changes. This policy update, most of it is just a tweak in the language or a change in the law. So policies 1616 and 5511, staff dress and grooming. Staff need to look professional at work. Policy 2266, we added our Title IX coordinators. So we just received a updated training, which if you want to look at our materials, it's posted on our website. And we've added 2 more coordinators, so we're happy about that. Policy 2271 is College Credit Plus. It states that 18-year-old males who are in College Credit Plus classes must register for selective service, or their parents must pay the fees and reimburse the school, because colleges cannot take money from ODE if they are not registered. So that happened at a school, somebody picked up on it, and now it's in everybody's policy. Policy 237001 is blended learning. They've added the addition of paper activities for students. Policy 5772 and 7217 is our weapons policy, and they added language to include explosives. changes to revised code 109.78 and revised code 2923122. Grant funds is policy 6110. They added language to include maintenance of effort.
Sorry. Not sure what's going on there. It is off. It is off. That's
And maintenance of equity.
very odd. I was getting the updates for the district, and it started playing music.
Likely story. Policy 6114 and 6325, it's changes to Edgar. They never touched Edgar for 40 years. Now they make lots of changes. It's Davis-Bacon prevailing wages of $2,000 and prohibits specific costs incurred for telecommunications and video surveillance equipment by specific companies from China. Just leave it there. Policy 6423 added the treasurer and CFO as the holder of the credit cards. Also, policy 7455 changed the estimated lives of our buildings from 40 years to 60 years. And policy 8500 is our food policy, and they've cleaned up language for non-disabled students and parental requirements for substitution of food. And that is our updates.
I have a question. Not a question, it's a comment. I just think it's really interesting that the policy number 5511, it's so interesting that it hasn't changed since 1996. That is a pretty crazy difference of time. And then I was also wondering, there's two weapons policies that we are talking about, and they include the same wording.
They do.
I guess if anyone's wondering, the only difference really is one is for students, the other one is for people coming in, right?
People coming in, yes. So all of the numbers correlate to either administration, students, visitors, staff. So a lot of times our policy changes will be identical in different policy numbers based on the location.
I know when I was reading this earlier, I read the same thing twice, and I was like, what is going on? And then I read back, and so if you guys were reading the policies and had that same question, I just wanted to clarify, so.
No, that's a great question.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
Okay. Sorry about the rude interruption of my phone. I was impressed that our superintendent's updates were coming over like as she was speaking, and
It was like the halftime show.
just as bad too.
Yeah, I didn't watch it.
Just my
so-
opinion.
Oh, I didn't watch it, so I just like the music.
I'm a little bit of a hard rock, heavy metal guy, so that doesn't appeal to me, but that's just my opinion. All right, on to number 11. Devin.
Back again. The superintendent recommends that the board approve the following personnel items. Item 11A, accept the ratifications to conditionally employ the following substitute teacher for the 2021-2022 school year, pending approval by the Bureau of Criminal Identification and Investigation and Concentric Drug Screening, as required by Ohio Revised Code 3319.291 and the policies of the West Carrollton City School District. 11B, hire the listed individual on a salary notice for the 2021-2022 school year. 11C, amend the salary of the listed individual due to additional training effective the beginning of the third quarter for the 2021-2022 school year. Item 11D, grant a leave of absence to the listed individual in accordance with the provisions of the Family Medical Leave Act. And item 11E, grant a medical leave of absence to the listed individual.
A motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Sloan?
Mr. Llewellyn,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Mundy,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Henry.
Yes.
Any comments?
Happy to welcome Jamie Nickel on item 11A. She has the correct license. So that was the situation that we've been stuck in before that I have to explain due to a maternity leave, getting a math teacher in our district that would be capable of covering a class that provides college credit in our high school is extremely difficult. You have to have a master's in mathematics. So with the help of Julie and myself, we kind of scoured all of our teachers' credentials, found one teacher, she was in the middle school, needed to move that teacher from the middle school to the high school, and then found a math teacher in the middle of the year to finish that. So that's very difficult, but it happened, so we're going to welcome her. But other than that, no, nothing.
Moving on to item number 12, Mr. Berry.
12, the superintendent recommends that the board approve the following personnel items. Item 12A, amend the supplemental pupil activity contract to the listed individual for the 2021-2022 school year. Item 12B, grant supplemental pupil activity contracts to the listed individuals for the 2021-2022 school year.
I need a motion and a second, please.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Miller,
Abstain.
Mr. Mundy,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn,
Yes.
Anything there? Comments wise?
Nothing really exciting in there.
Number 13, back to you, sir.
Item 13, the superintendent recommends that the board approve the following personnel items. Item 13A, accept the resignation of the listed individual. And item 13B, amend the paid medical leave of absence for the listed individual. Item 13C, grant a paid leave of absence to the listed individual. And 13D, grant a leave of absence to the listed individual in accordance with the provisions of the Family Medical Leave Act.
I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Sloan?
Mr. Mundy,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Mr. Haig?
I'd like to, the superintendent recommends that the board authorize the business manager to advertise for bid for the following capital improvement projects as detailed in the specifications provided by Levin Porter and Associates and Nauman and Zielinski Engineering as presented. And that is the West Carrollton High School auditorium area HVAC replacement. This will be phase 2, and it'll include the scene shop, stage, and dressing room area. And then also auditorium high school lighting, an LED upgrade that'll include the main lobby of the high school, along with the scene shop, maintenance area, and dressing room areas.
I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Sloan?
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Mundy,
Yes.
This will just be a continuation of what we've been working on. The auditorium will be staying through phase 2. It'll be becoming a freestanding building. And so what we're doing is we're finishing the rest of the HVAC. We've replaced that over the main house part of the auditorium along with the foyer. Now we'll be doing the stage and all the back of house areas. The main lobby we're speaking of is the main lobby when you walk in the high school between the cafeteria and the auditorium. That part will also be staying. So we'll be upgrading the lighting in that along with ceiling tiles. And then also in the pirate shop right there, the spirit store, it'll be upgraded also because that is another part that will be staying when we go make that auditorium freestanding. So by doing this, then we should have all the HVAC done. We're also in the middle of a lighting upgrade on the stage where all the stage lights are going to LED. And that should be completed here by the end of this month. We're waiting on some dimmers. Again, electronic equipment not being in on time, that's shocking, but that is one of those things. But that electronic equipment should be in by the end of this month. That's just a wire plug and play type thing. Soundforce is doing that installation. Our lightings will be able to be controlled by the same iPad that our sound system is when it's all said and done. So everything is getting away from those giant soundboards where you can control the lighting and sound from one iPad. So we're simplifying it, but we're also increasing our energy efficiency, reducing heat load, and making it a lot better place to have a show. So,
So you don't anticipate, obviously this is perfectly fine, we need to do this, but do you anticipate any,
it will not interfere with the musical.
that's what I'm going at.
I know.
I'm a little bit, you know,
I know. It will
you already
not.
brought up the lighting and the fact, and just knowing all the issues everybody in the country has with supply and things coming in, you don't have any fear of that?
All the lights are in place. We could be running those lights tomorrow on our current, what we're waiting on is dimmers to come in for them, which is basically a breaker module that'll go in. We could run them on our current breakers if we program those breakers correctly. But if somebody was to go in and make a change, it could blow out our lights. So our goal is to just put these new breakers in. That's about a one day's worth of work once those arrive. So I was going to put this project off till the summer, but Mr. Coleman is the one who said, no, let's go ahead and get this done so we have it in place for the musical.
So if it interferes, it's his fault.
Huh?
Yes.
I did just kind of throw him under the bus.
Yes, there you go.
But I
That's your
totally,
answer.
I totally agreed with what he said because Sound Force is guaranteed us, so one way or the other, those lights on that stage will work and it'll be programmed and it'll be really easy to do for the new musical. So I am on board with him. If he's under the bus, I'm holding hands with him there, okay?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item number 15. Dr. Townsend.
Great, thank you. I'd like to recommend the board approves the proposed Business Professionals of America, BPA, state competition student trip on March 10th and 11th, 2022 in Columbus, Ohio, as presented. The Workplace Skills Assessment Program prepares high school students to succeed and assesses world business skills and problem-solving abilities in finance, management, IT, and computer applications. The WASP is the BPA's showcase program and facilitates students demonstrating their career skills at regional, state, and national conferences. And I have Ms. Earl here tonight if you have any questions.
Comment than a question. Is that fine?
No.
You mean, huh?
No.
No? I was just gonna say, with how good they've been doing, it's just great that they're able to kind of keep moving on and keep doing more. So, hopefully they make it all the way to the top. So that's all I have to say.
I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Sloan?
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn,
Yes.
Mrs.
Yes. Sorry.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Mundy,
Yes.
Mr. Cox.
Yes. Ms. Earl, you care to add anything?
No, this is the most we've ever had advanced to state, so it's really exciting. We only had 10 members this year because a couple years of not having it, people didn't know what it was. But 7 of the 10 advanced to competitions, and then 2 others are advancing through additional torch awards. So we're just excited to have kids really looking to the upper level with so little they've had to work with.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Best of luck to you guys. All right, moving on to item number 16. Mr. Sloan.
Thank you. I ask that the board approve the following donation, $113.03 from Shelley Arnett for the National Junior Honor Society.
Need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
And roll call.
Mr. Llewellyn,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Mundy,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Henry.
Yes.
Item number 17 pertains to our financial reports.
I ask that the board approve the following financial items. Item A, purchase orders requiring then and now certification. Item B, appropriation modifications. And item C, January 2022 financial reports.
I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
And roll call, please.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Mundy,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn.
Yes.
Any comments, Mr. Sloan?
These are the reports July through January, 7 months. So we're 7 months through our fiscal year. Nothing of significance really to report on. We're running a little bit ahead of schedule, just comparing numbers to the 5-year forecast that was prepared in November. So things are going well as we progress through the school year.
Great, thank you. Item number 18, Mr. Berry.
I'm requesting a motion and a second that the board approve the resolution as presented regarding pay to substitute teachers.
I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call.
Mr. Mundy,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller.
Yes.
Any comments?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, it was an amendment to, actually, Mr. Llewellyn asked about it before, and we continue to monitor, and I only come to you when we run into situations where I think we're possibly losing substitutes or doing something to possibly threaten the amount that we have. We have grown to 50, but that's about between 30 and 40 less substitutes than we normally work with. So I think this resolution will help some of the substitutes who have stuck with us throughout the year. One that I wanted to note at the ECC, by the time we hit day 102 for the ECC, she had worked 84 days. Without the resolution that occurs right now, she would maintain the minimum amount of pay. So by adding this resolution, we allow her to progress and make a little more money to honestly to give her encouragement to come back and recognize that she's been working nearly every day at the ECC.
I forget if I read in there or not. Do they get back pay at all with that, or is that included or no?
This resolution is effective like 2 days ago, Monday.
Oh, okay, so it doesn't. Yeah, okay.
I tried.
I was just wondering. Yeah.
I tried. Shut it down. Yeah.
Can you kind of summarize for me though where we kind of land in the substitute pay, the per day rate compared to districts around us? Are we? I think we're competitive, but are we in the middle? Are we still on the lower end, as far as you know?
I think when we adjusted it, what is it now, Ryan? Maybe 3-4 years ago. As I look now, we're in the middle. Some have raised theirs, so I probably need to do it again. But we normally hit right about in the middle. Definitely not on the lower end, but the guys that were on the lower end have had to adjust theirs.
They've raised as well, so yeah. So that
the
gap is
lowest
shorter.
was the district to our immediate south, and they raised theirs last year.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to comments and reports. Any committee reports tonight? Mr. Henry?
The Miami Valley Career Technical Center had an open house Sunday 2 weeks ago that I attended, along with roughly 500 to 700 other people. The superintendent did not do an actual head count, but it was a good prerequisite of the official open house that'll occur probably in the spring of 2024, when the under construction buildings right now will be complete. Location, terminology, things like that. This new layout of the building at the Career Technical Center has a spine. Could we not call it something else? We have a spine, and there are wings that run off of the spine. There's a west wing, there'll be a east wing, and I think the other one's called south wing, from memory. But overall, the number of square feet that'll be utilized by the students at that facility is growing. Now, why, you ask? The current student population, which is only juniors and high school juniors and seniors that we're discussing, is approximately 1,800. With the new construction, that will probably give them a capacity around 2,000 students there on the main campus. There are some satellite locations that are not included in the numbers I'm providing tonight. For example, Miamisburg High School is a satellite function of the CTC for specific training. And that's important. Took my finger out of the stack of paper. There it is. So what's that do for West Carrollton High School? Currently, we have 29 juniors attending and 24 seniors attending the main campus at the Career Technical Center. There's an offering there of over 40 programs that students, potential students, could apply for. And it's interesting that for the 2022-23 school year that will begin in late August, the number of applications that they have received is 1,322. Now, these would be the new incoming junior class of 2024. This compares to last, 12 months ago, of 1,058 applications, or an increase of 264, and it's not closed yet. The emphasis is that some of those 40-plus programs fill very quickly. There's slots for 24. Juniors will become seniors. Maybe that's half of the group. And there's 100 or more people that want that last 25 slots. I want to call it food service. Culinary arts is a biggie that students apply for and don't get into. It fills rapidly, just as an example. But we have that in our own academic offerings here at the high school. There are some classes that students, if they don't apply quickly, they might not get their choice this year. They may have to wait a year to get into that. But that's a lesson learned, and that's what education, I think, is about. You have to plan and you have to react. When students move on to the college level, that becomes a big concern, to be able to schedule classes that you need to meet your programs or your degrees requirements. I, for example, had to travel during my senior year to get one course that I needed for my Bachelor of Science degree. But I did. I couldn't get it earlier. So anyhow, for those students and parents that might be listening to this later on, what's he talking about? Act quickly. Come up with a plan. It could be changed if you can't get into the class offering that you wish. You have to have a backup plan as well. Okay, so at this point, there's 264 applicants higher for this fall than there was for the current year. Okay, There are 65 applications from West Carrollton High School sophomores that the Career Technical Center staff is reviewing this week to make their selections based on grades, interest, availability of spaces in those programs from seniors graduating and juniors staying in the program, and it's complicated. Enough with that. Let's see. I've toured the Career Technical Center 3 times since I've been on the school board here for 7+ years. Each time I see something I haven't seen before. Final comment. I was very impressed by the instructors and the students that spoke to we visitors during the open house. They handled themselves very well. Some were juniors, some were seniors. I was just impressed. The facility was so clean and well organized for a tour, specific parking, all this through the construction phase, snow and ice. And I'm thinking, who's going to clean this up the next day when we visitors drag all that rock salt into the building? It's got to go. But I was very impressed, and I'll try to continue to report good news from the CTC. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? On to Dr. Townsend.
Thank you. First of all, I want to just say how excited I am about the new buildings. It's a huge benefit for our students and community. I'm looking very forward to the buildings opening in the fall, and then as we move forward with our project with the rest of our facilities. I couldn't be happier for everybody. And with that being said, I know I met with my principals not that long ago. They are very happy to meet with their new staff, so their staff for next year, which leads me to remind parents QPT Day is Friday, and our students are off. And we are off on Monday. We're closed for President's Day. And that is all I have tonight.
Okay. Mr. Sloan, you have anything tonight?
I think you all have received communications from our auditors as they're working on our audit for a long time ago, like July 20 through June of 21. So I think the state auditor's office, I think their staffing was affected by COVID, I believe, and just them losing personnel, just like a lot of other places. So hopefully they can get that wrapped up here in the next few months. So they're just to reduce the number of times they're asking me about things that happened 18 or 20 months ago. But otherwise, we hope that goes well and get that resolved. But just want to comment on that in terms of the fact that it's running a couple months later than it normally does. But that's it.
We don't have anybody from the West Carrollton Education Association, nobody from the classified. Central Office, Mr. Berry, anything?
I wanted to congratulate girls varsity basketball team on their playoff victory in double overtime. Really exciting team, really young, so I think they have many years ahead where they'll continue to win. And Jack and I were right on time, not as early as we should be normally, but we are in the middle of football interviews, and we've had, I believe, 36 applicants. So we just interviewed 5, and I think all 5 have been varsity head coaches, and we didn't have a shortage of people interested in taking the challenge of leading a football team.
Good.
Mr. Haig?
May I comment on the girls' high school basketball game? I enjoyed it. I really did. But what was interesting was where I was sitting, and I got there first. The West Carrollton High School boys basketball coaches were there rooting on the girls, for the girls, coaching them from the bleachers on some of the play selections and positive, real positive reinforcement to all of those students. And I think our players reacted to that on a positive note. And in a tournament game, to go 2 overtimes and have that kind of closeness of the scoring and then win by 5, I believe it was. That was great. Now, that was the second game of the night. The first game that evening at Troy High School was Centerville and Xenia, both ends of the full spectrum of Division I play in our section. District. I thought Centerville did a excellent job in controlling the game. They could have blown it away more than the 30 points that they did win by, as I have experienced with boys basketball in past years. And I believe, in my humble opinion, that all of the Centerville players got on the floor during the match, and the Xenia players played hard the whole game. They didn't let up. They were there to show their strength. And final comment, I was sitting behind a grandmother of one of the Xenia players. On their squad, they had 2 senior girls that had not played competitive basketball before. Now that's an opportunity for someone like Mrs. Miller, who brings on potential team members every season, that says, we'll teach you, we'll give you the opportunity to play and enjoy this sport. And there it is at a high school Division I level as well. That's good news. There are positive things out there. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll give you a real quick.
Okay. So, Mr. Haig.
I just thought there's been a lot happening the past month on the building, and I don't think I commented the last one, so I just thought I'd give you guys an update on where we're at. Monday and Tuesday, we had 9 different inspections at the 5-6 building.
Wonderful.
On that, so it is moving along well. All the permits are in order, and that building is coming along. Second floor is a beehive this week up there of workers. Where they're at inside is all the casework has been installed or is in the process, should be installed by the end of this week in the office areas of the PK1 building. So that means the teacher workroom is put together. The clinic has the caseworks mounted to the walls. Flooring's down. Plumbing fixtures are in. When I say flooring, the vinyl and ceramic, we're not putting carpet down yet. Ceiling tiles are not in yet. That'll be near the end of the project, so they don't get dirty. But the sprinkler system is in. We've got lighting. The switches are on the lighting now, the dimmers and motion sensors. So things are moving well. Gym floors arrived this week for both buildings. So the wood is inside, acclimating to the climate. It's got to sit for 2 weeks before they can install it, so that way the humidity level and the temperature level stabilizes inside the building before they go doing the installation of it. All the baskets are hung. As soon as the flooring's in, the bleacher people will be right behind it to start on bleachers. So it is moving quickly. To go by the PK1, they have the red glazed brick for the entrance, and it is installed. You also notice there's a new construction gate open now on the Pease Avenue side. They'll take you into the parking lot. That'll be where our exit will be once this building's done, but that's where the construction guys are asked to park now, is out in front there. So because they were starting to dig up the gravel around the building and put the topsoils back down so they can get ready to start planting trees. And once the spring hits, we can start seeding. So it is moving quickly. I think on Monday when I was over there, they said there's 45 work days on their timeline, 45 work days to go until they're ready to declare substantial completion on it. So they'll still have other things to go, but that's when they're planning on having it to the point where most of the contractors are pulling out and that building's just about done inside. So, okay.
Good, thank you.
All right, Ms. Tice? Mr. Meyer, anything? Ms. Jones? Okay. We'll move on. There's no comments from the public, so we'll move on to our board members. We'll start with Mr. Llewellyn today.
Thank you. Just a couple quick things. I'll just bring the musical up again. The cast was announced from the last meeting to this one, and there are 31, according to the Facebook post anyway, there are 31 kids, if I can count correctly, that are in the cast. And I just want to announce to the parents, because not every student, unfortunately, gets the word to their parent sometimes, that there's a parent meeting next Wednesday, a week from today, so after you could actually get a chance to see this, at 7 p.m. here at the high school. So if you are a parent of one of those 31 students, just letting you know from here that you do have a meeting with Mr. Coleman with anything you can do to help. I know there was a post looking for help making costumes, and I'm sure that's just the tip of the iceberg for where they need parents to be involved and help. But just want to let the parents know that there's a meeting next Wednesday at 7 p.m. here at the high school. I will just kind of tag on about the girls basketball. They won their game a couple days ago. Tomorrow night, which will be after this would view, but tomorrow night they play the second round game against Heber Heights or Wayne High School. If they prevail, and that's certainly not a guarantee, Centerville, who I do expect to win their second game, would be their opponent. So they're a game away from potentially playing Centerville. The kids are, if my, again, math isn't wrong, the girls basketball team is 16-5 right now, based on the postseason win that they just had. That's it.
Thank you. Ms. Miller?
Well, I just want to congratulate all the winter teams. They did a really great job this year. I know I've been watching the tweets that are coming through on the girls' basketball, the boys' basketball. We've got a wrestler that went to state. The swim team, I believe, had some awesome finishes too. So they, across the board, just did a phenomenal job. That leads me to spring sports. Yes, spring sports are coming. If you watch your announcements, a lot of us are starting to get into the order of things. When I pulled up today, there were a couple kids out there, obviously on the baseball team, because they had baseball bats in their backpacks. So everybody's starting to get going, and the official start to spring season, I'll make sure that I have the right date here, is March 7th. That would be our first official day of practice for spring sports. So if you are willing, if you want to be a participant this spring, then you need to fill in your final forms. Make sure you get those physicals in. If you had one, if you did play a fall or winter sport, you should have one on file already, so none needed. However, if you have not participated up until now, you will need to get that done. The other final forms, paperwork and everything will have to be signed by you and your parents. So please get all of that taken care of so us coaches don't have that to worry about. And watch your grades. They are something that we need to, there has to be a 2.0, so make sure that you get everything aligned and ready to go for the spring season. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. Henry?
I got to go back to sports. Also announced this week was 3 high school girls and 3 high school boys that received all MVL honors. I don't know if that's a record. I'm impressed by the fact that we had 6 of our students competing at a very high level as selected by all of the coaches in the rest of the league. So they're seen as being out there. Check out our athletic director's Twitters to get details. They may be posted now in the district website as well. And here's another one for you. Here's a young lady that's competing for us in wrestling. And she attends Fenwick High School, which is south of us, but they don't have a wrestling program that includes females. So she's competing for West Carrollton High School, and she's doing very well. She has moved on to the state level. Her name's, can I use the name? Emily Von Dohre, D-O-H-R-E. As I said, she's a Fenwick High School student, but she's wrestling for West Carrollton High School, and she's doing very well. On our wrestling team, there is one other female wrestler. Life is changing. We're adapting. We've got coaches that are willing to work with our students to bring out the best in them. And this is a good example where one school district and another school district went together to make something happen. And I congratulate the fact that we were able to do that. And Fenwick is taking credit too, and that's fine. Thank you.
Mr. Mundy.
I want to start by sending thoughts and prayers to Ms. Corbett and Mr. Sanner. It's kind of tough not having our Pirate Pride and having our nice little presentation. So I'm happy that we're here, kind of doing it for her, and kind of saying the good things that are going on here, and keeping that Pirate Pride going. And I wanted to add with that by it's nice to see that there's a 2019 alumni that's going to be a coach, and it's just nice to see Kaisa, kind of be a part of our group. And just 2019, we do great things, I guess. So I'm excited to see that. I also wanted to say, to the subs, I'm guessing you're not watching, but if you are and you want to sub, we upped our prices. So come apply, come and join. We need how many more? 30? We'll take whatever we can get. Yeah, so tell your friends. And then I know with this new school stuff going on, and all the work you guys have done, it's just amazing to see everything kind of wrapping up. Things are getting close to done, and of course we still have more to go after that. But I'm just grateful that we can work together as a team and do all these amazing things and really work together as a team to do that. What else do I got here? I went to that new board member meeting or conference or whatever. All the local school board members kind of joined in, and it was just another great experience. It's just always nice to have those networking events with other school board members and to exchange some amazing ideas. All school boards have something special that they have that really does a lot of amazing things for kids. And I've been just kind of taking those in and seeing what I could do to give them some good information. So I know we're all for student reps. Big deal for us. We adopted that from Centerville. I remember that in 2019. I remember all that work that we did. So, just to exchange those ideas with other schools and them telling us some amazing ideas, it's just something I've really kind of grown attached to. So I'm hoping, board willing, that I could still kind of continue with exchanging ideas with other board members and to really kind of create a better culture, not just for all our school, but for schools around, Montgomery County, Ohio, and even further. It's just been such an amazing experience to kind of trade those ideas. And then of course, I have to say my quote. This one is by A.A. Milne. It says, "You are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think." I just thought that was I was reading that and I'm like, wow, that's kind of a powerful thought, and I think a lot of times we put ourselves down more than we should. We don't really think of ourselves more than we really are. So just a good reminder that you're better than you think. Keep pushing for what you're, fighting for. Keep pushing for those dreams that you have, because you'll get them if you want them. So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
So I'm going to kind of feed off of something that Nate was saying, class of 2019. My oldest son is going to graduate a semester early, and I'm leading into parents, please look at the CCP classes. Please get your students involved if they can. Please support them in that. If it wasn't for his CCP classes, he would not be able to graduate early like he's going to. It was a $9,000 savings is what it's going to compute to. That's before housing. So the CCP classes are offered through our district. Take advantage of that. Seek out everything you can get and get that education if you're going to be attending college. If you don't attend college, look at the trades. Take your options a different direction, step into those trades. 2019 is doing some great things. And it sounds like he may be interning here over the summer for WHIO, which is exciting news. So we'll see what that looks like.
We just don't stop.
You don't stop. You don't stop. Congrats to all of our winter sports, and best of luck in the postseason. Keep moving and keep fighting. I've commented before about a little basketball team that I coach. It's just some boys that get together. Last Saturday, we went 6-4 for our season, and we'll be competing in a tournament coming up, and have been invited to participate in a competition league for the spring. What was really cool about this is both the teams that we played in our second game. First game was 74-56, we won. Our second game was 72-61, and the last 2 minutes of that game, both teams decided that they were going to do a slam dunk contest to end out the last 2 minutes, which was kind of exciting to watch. Not really getting the opportunity for some of these guys to get out there on the court and actually, slam the ball, but we've got three kids on the team that can get some big air, and it was impressive to watch. And we had two of their kids that did the same thing. So that changed the scoring a little bit. They got a little bit closer at the end there. But it's just a lot of fun to watch these kids play. It's just a small group. They got together, they wanted to form a team, and they're really working well. So I'm proud of our West Carrollton team that plays at Kingdom. That's all I've got tonight. We're going to conclude this meeting, and then we have,
Yeah, go into exec.
like I said, we have an executive meeting. So I will entertain a motion and a second for us to conclude this and to step into executive.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Sloan?
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Mendy?
Yes.
The board will conduct no official business after our executive session.